first off, what are your thoughts on everything that's happened in the last, few weeks and months here?
It's a lot. Actually, it's a lot for not only myself, but especially the families, that have been directly impacted. It's a lot for the community, Long Plain First Nation, but also for, all of our First Nations communities, not only in Manitoba, but across the country. I believe that it is triggering for a lot of people. So it has been a difficult week and a half to 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, it really has, and for everybody. Now, I understand you've met with police numerous times now in the police board, right? And are you able to share sort of some of what's come from those conversations? I think you met this morning, right? Are you able to share some of what happened there?
Yeah, so we did meet with the chief of police today. This was the first meeting that we had, or that I had actually as chief for Long Plain, and it's a step in the right direction, and I'm hoping that the words that were shared today do have meaning behind it, and there will be action that will happen following the meeting that we had this morning. So,
well, you and others like yourself have called for Chief Smythe to resign. So did the words this morning maybe draw those back a bit, or how did that sort of affect that?
Well, like I said, I'm just waiting to see what the action is going to be. The call for resignation was due to the inaction of calls for searches of the landfill, and I'm just here to support the families and just be that supportive role, and I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that families are feeling supported right now.
Well, and you're the chief of Long Plain First Nation. That's where two of the women are from that were unfortunately murdered. How's the community of Long Plain doing with all of this?
Well, like I had mentioned, some people are triggered. Unfortunately, this is not the first incident of someone that is a part of our community, that is our family, that is missing. And so there's a lot of sadness and hurt and anger. And it's unfortunate that we're having yet to talk about this again.
Well, and in your opinion, what do you think needs to happen in these next steps, and as we work towards the future, to ending this violence against Indigenous women and girls and two-spirited people?
Well, everyone needs to come together, all levels of government, police services, leadership. We all need to come together to formulate some sort of a plan on how we're going to protect our Indigenous women, our girls, Two-Spirit. It's so important that everyone is on the same page when we talk about the vulnerability and the risks that our women are having to face every single day when they leave our First Nations communities.
And there was a statement sent out by, again, a number of the Indigenous organizations, yourself, talking about here's a few things of what needs to happen, and I believe it was the first on the list was having a UN special rapporteur to oversee sort of what's going on here. Why was that so important?
Well, it just speaks to the human rights issue. Why is it that Indigenous people are continually left behind when we talk about supports and services and just basic human rights? We have, an epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit, and no one is listening. So what exactly do we need to do to make sure that our voices are heard? So I do believe that we need to have as many people that are going to support our families, our communities, coming together right now to ensure that this work continues to move forward.
And can you talk about some of the other things that were on that statement? I believe there was also funding from the federal government to fund the search. Can you just sort of touch on what else that statement really was asking for?
So yes, there was the request for supports for searching of the landfill. We know that two of our women, if not more, are in these two landfills. I know the focus right now has been the Prairie Green landfill, but we are also talking about the Brady landfill as well. And so the request is to receive supports for these searches at all levels of government, not just the federal government. And the other request is making sure that we have those supports in place for families that are impacted by the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, Two-Spirit, sorry. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we're 3 years past the national inquiry, and I had mentioned, previously with Hilda, like, did you think that 3 years past, some of the numbers and of here in Winnipeg and just across the country, that some of these numbers of Indigenous women being unfortunately murdered or like they're getting worse? Did you think that 3 years after the inquiry that they'd be getting worse?
Well, I honestly thought that, with the inquiry that there would be action shortly thereafter. There was a lot of work and spirit that was put into that. We had a lot of families come forward to share their thoughts and their perspectives and their needs. And, it was very important work that was done. And it was our hope that there would have been action following that, but we haven't seen anything, unfortunately. And to be quite honest, I don't really know why that is. There's so many people that came forward with that inquiry. Well,
is that maybe part of the issue too? Is it like you had said, nobody's really sure why there hasn't been a lot of action, right? Like, is that part of the issue of asking government for this and asking government to maybe do something here, but nothing's really being said? Like, is that part of the issue that's going on here?
Well, when you're in a leadership role, there's so many issues that you're having to deal with, and it's all about a balance and priorities, and there is a number of issues that all levels of government are needing to address right now, and it is about that balance. So we have many families that are impacted by the child welfare system or the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, Two-Spirit issue, the issue of genocide. So it is really important that when you are in a leadership position at any level of government, that you are making sure that you are prioritizing all of these different needs and you're addressing every single need that is being asked or requested.
Well, and when it comes to specifically the search, what do you think are the immediate next steps? I know the statement went out asking for some of. So, what do you think is some of the immediate next steps to make sure that these women are brought home?
Well, the first step right now is looking at a feasibility study. What is a plan and a budget to search these landfills? That is the first step that we are moving towards. Once we have that plan and that budget, then we will be able to have a clear idea of what we are needing to do to move forward.
And what do you say to another family member or a community that's going through something like this? I mean, you're chief of Long Plain, and I understand that the family and yourself, to an extent, would be grieving a little bit, right? So what do you say to somebody else who might be going through the same thing?
Well, that's a very difficult question, just given the fact that every community is different, but we're all dealing with the same issues. And at the end of the day, all we really have is each other, whether that's communities or families. And for me, I see a lot of leaders coming forward and advocating for the supports of our families, and just know that they're not alone, that we're all here for them, and that their voices are being heard, and whatever it is that they are needing us to do, we will do it.
And it seems like Winnipeg and this issue has sort of hit the peak of it's at an international level. It seems like a lot of people from around the world are looking at this, unfortunately, like it looked at the unmarked graves. How significant is that, do you think, that the international world is also looking in and seeing what's going to happen next?
Well, internationally, we have many indigenous groups, indigenous people that are dealing with the same issues. Unfortunately, that's the reality of being an indigenous person globally. A lot of our needs are fallen to the wayside, and so with all of the indigenous people or First Nations people, whatever that is, or whoever that is, we are all dealing with the same thing, and so we're looking to each other for that support and for those answers. And even with the non-Indigenous community, some of these things are very shocking. And I've had many people reach out to me and share that they can't believe that this is happening right now, and it is a human rights issue. and it's not just an Indigenous issue right now, what we're dealing with.
Well, and you just mentioned that there's non-Indigenous people who are like, wow, like I didn't know this was going on. Again, much like on Mark Graves and all the other issues. How significant is it that they're also becoming aware of what's going on, and it seems like they want to know a little bit of what's going on now as opposed to before?
Well, I think as we move throughout time, we have more and more Indigenous people that are becoming more vocal about the needs of our communities, and that is an educational piece that we are providing as we move forward with addressing all these different issues. And I'm just really grateful for all the leadership that has talked about all these different issues for years, and now we're just continuing on with that fight, and I think that we are just continuing on with that work that's already been done.
Well, Chief Wilson, that's really well said. I think that's a good way to maybe pause our conversation for now. Again, this is a conversation that needs to continue to be told and shared and the like. So I want to say thank you, miigwech, to you, especially for coming in and sharing some of your thoughts and your insights. And again, this conversation won't be going away anytime soon. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to speak with us.
Thank you.